A very lovely good afternoon and welcome everybody here at IFZA in Dubai. Welcome to today's webinar with this very long and very cumbersome title, Explore the Practices and Benefits of Emiratisation Policies in the UAE. A warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. I just got the feedback from the guys behind the camera that we have over 130 participants joining today from more than 15 countries. So I want to welcome all of you, and I'm so grateful and so happy to see that we have such a high interest today in today's topic. I'm very happy to have you all on board here. So welcome to today's webinar. I would like to quickly introduce everyone who's here at this very panel. We have a wide range of different experts who's going to be with us today. I'm very happy that I don't have to guide through this very program myself, but we have some additional speakers here on board. I would like to welcome Dr. Konstantin Frank Fahle, a founding partner of Emiratisation, who is with us today. Konstantin, welcome. We have also Tim Ackermann, who is Director People and Culture at IFZA, with us today in the round. So Tim, welcome to you as well. And we have Sarah Sefiane, who is CEO and co-founder of Skyrise Partners, also here with us today in the round. So Sarah, thank you very much for being here today, and welcome also on your end. We're going to cover a wide range of different topics today about the Emiratisation. We will have a look at the legal requirements, current, so present times, as well as getting a glimpse into potential future developments when it comes to the legal topics that need to be considered for that. We will talk about practical experiences of Emiratisations, the challenges as well as the opportunities with that. And we will also see firsthand projects of how we can work with Emirati women here in the country and make sure that we get a good insights and a good learning about that. I would also like to introduce myself. My name is Diego Michel. I am the International Business Relations Manager here at IFZA, meaning we're taking care of market developments of different markets and different developments in those respective key markets here. I'm sure many of you already know IFZA. Many of you know what we are doing and what we're focusing on. And this topic here is one of the many topics that we as a free zone company are focusing. We don't want to just provide you with the necessary services when it comes to licenses, but we also want to give you background information. We want to give you insights about the country, and we want to make sure that you are bestly briefed about what's happening here in Dubai as well as here in the UAE. Before we start with our experts here in the round, I want to give a couple of housekeeping rules for this webinar today. On the one hand, please be aware that the webinar is actually being recorded and it will be shared later on. So you will get this very recording after the webinar, so you can always use that as a reference. Also, you will get all the presentation slides from our experts sent after the webinar itself. So don't worry about that. You will get the information later on too. And lastly, you will find a small button somewhere on your screen where you have the possibilities to raise questions. So we will go into a Q&A session after the presentation. So please feel free to always use that, ask your questions already, and we will hopefully then answer them after the actual presentation. So we will have enough time for that. So now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our first expert, our first speaker today, Dr. Konstantin Frank Fahle, who will give us a legal insights into that very interesting topic. So Konstantin, the stage is yours, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Thanks for the invitation. Always a pleasure to be here at IFZA and taking part in your webinar series. I will speak about Emiratisation rules in the United Arab Emirates today, roughly 10 to 12 minutes, give you a short introduction into the topic and to the sort of legal aspects of hiring UAE nationals, the specific termination rules, because there's a special set of rules, how you would need to look at the termination, pension schemes for UAE nationals, and one topic that I'm quite passionate about is the value add programs, where Emiratisation also plays a major role. I will conclude basically with an outlook, and then I will hand over to Tim on my right, who will talk about the next topic. So to introduce it, I mean, Emiratisation is a so-called workforce nationalization program, which is basically carried out in most of the GCC member states in accordance with varying rules and regulations. Obviously, in Saudi Arabia, the pressure in terms of local population is much higher than in the UAE. Here in the Emirate of Dubai, we typically have around 90% foreigners, expatriates, and only 10% of the population is Emirati. We have basically the idea of encouraging private companies to employ UAE nationals in the private sector. It was introduced in 2009, and since 2022, basically, we see much stricter rules and quotas in the mainland. I will talk a bit later about the free zone implication that is basically not there yet, but this will be something for the outlook. There is a so-called NAFIS program, which was introduced in 2021, which basically helps private sector companies to hire UAE nationals, also by the way of topping up certain salary parts. Today, we have around 97,000 Emiratis working for roughly 20,000 private companies. So how does the hiring process basically work, and to which companies does it actually apply? Most of the companies basically were initially subject to the Emirati or Emiratisation rules if they had 50 or more employees. Now this has changed. We see that there is a 2% yearly target split in half-year targets into 1%. And under the new rules and regulations, we see that companies much smaller, between 20 and 49, would also be required to hire an Emirati national. There's certain quotas for this. Then there is basically also penalties that come along with that. We see that in particular towards the end of the year. We're November right now, where there's a bit of a rush to meet these quotas in order to achieve that you do not have to pay any penalties. So they're quite hefty, 96,000 AED for 2024 violations, and then payable in Jan 2025, and it increases accordingly. There's different fines for the bigger companies with 50 or more. It would be fined at 8,000 monthly for each Emirati not hired, and it is going to increase 1,000 dirham yearly until 2026. There are some additional penalties for a so-called fake Emiratisation, where you basically hire an Emirati and basically just pretend as if the person is working for you, because the aim of the regulation is really that the Emiratis will be integrated into the private sector economy. As you can see here, they range between 100,000 and 500,000 AED. There's ministerial decision also 296 out of 2023, which also establishes administrative fines and criteria for Emiratisation violations. I'm not going to go into details. There's specific rules regarding the job advertisements for Emiratisation. You should also take a closer look at that. That's covered by the ministerial decision 663 out of 2022. And then there's also certain procedural obligations when you hire UAE nationals, such as obviously concluding an employment contract and liaising with the Ministry of Human Resources and Emiratisation. You would need to register the Emirati employee also for the general pension scheme. There's certain specific rules in the Emirates of Abu Dhabi and Sharjah that you would need to look at. And then, of course, because this pertains to mainland companies, the general rule of the wage protection system would also apply. So you would need to see that you channel salary payments through the WPS payment. As I've mentioned earlier, there's the NAFIS program, where you can basically apply for, under certain conditions, salary top-up payments by the government. The background of this idea is that public sector salaries, where Emiratis are traditionally hired and are working for, are considerably higher than in the private sector industry. And in order to basically achieve high Emiratisation levels, there is a salary top-up scheme. I think one aspect where basically the employment law considerably deviates from the normal rules and regulations that would apply for private sector employment are the termination rules. This is laid out in an older ministerial decision, 2012 out of 2018. And you would need to carry out a very formalistic termination process in case it just doesn't work out. One of the aspects is that you need to carry out an exit interview, and you need to have a legitimate reason for doing so, which could be gross misconduct, and you should basically follow this. There is or let's say, put it this way, there's a lot of cases where we see that the formalities of this exit process are not met. So it's very important that if you fall under the obligation to hire Emiratis, or you decide to do this on a voluntary basis, that you make yourselves familiar with these termination rules. There's a bit of legal uncertainty with regards to this ministerial decision, because this was released prior to the enforcement of the new employment law, which was released in 2022. Our view is that it is still applicable. However, Mora, on a verbal basis, at least told us that is not applicable anymore. All of the major law firms, including us, however, believe that it is still applicable. So do take care of making yourselves familiar with this. There's certain rules and regulations regarding the pension. This is laid out in the Federal Decree Law 57 out of 2023. You would need to basically make yourself familiar with this one as well. The pension provided is for eligible Emiratis and GCC nationals working in the UAE. So it's not only for Emiratis, and the employees need to be registered with the General Pension and Social Security Authority. So this is also in deviation to the general rules and regulations that would apply to expatriates. We have a much stronger social security law when it comes to Emiratis. Now, this is for me a very important topic, value add programs. As we see from the oil and gas industry, ADNOC has released in 2018 its so-called in-country value program, and follows under other GCC national oil companies with trying to localize certain production and service providers into the UAE. And in order to get that ICV certificate, you also get additional points if you hire local content. And you can thereby basically create synergies through complying with the normal Emiratisation rules that I've just laid out. And also, if you are basically looking at getting an ICV in country value certification, getting a better score, and ultimately having better chances at winning government procurement contracts. The ICV program, and that's important for everyone to understand, is basically been shifted into the so-called national ICV program, and is now at a federal UAE level, and does not only pertain to ADNOC. This having been said, in order not to take too much time away from my fellow speakers, I'd like to conclude and say that the requirements are likely to continue to evolve, and will basically tighten with higher quotas. This in particular, and that's one of the main questions that is relevant also for IFZA as a free zone, is whether Emiratisation will also be applicable to the free zones. In my view, this will certainly be the case in the future. As of now, the rules and regulations I've just laid out earlier, there's no legal obligation to hire Emirati talent if you are registered within a free zone within the UAE. HR professionals would need to familiarize themselves with these rules and regulations, with the obligations to hire Emiratis on the one hand, but also understand the onboarding process and the exit process. And I believe that the workforce nationalization will still continue to increase. And also, I believe that you should take a closer look at the value add programs, in particular, if you're carrying out projects and works or deliver products to government-related entity. With that, I'd like to conclude and hand over to Tim.
Just gives a chance that people can see your contact details. So
thank you, Tim.
So I can't say thank you for having me because I'm part of IFZA, but thank you for listening to me and pay attention to what I have to say. I was asked to introduce myself a little bit more in detail so that you understand also where my perspective is coming from. So we had a very detailed perspective from the legal side. I will share with you a little bit more, let's say, the internal company strategic thoughts about Emiratisation. So why we're doing that, how we're doing it, what challenges are. Speaking about my background, so I'm Director People and Culture at IFZA since 1 year and 2 days. It's also the first or the time when I joined the UAE. I've been to the UAE before, but mainly in my other jobs in global talent acquisition, global people and culture work. So I work for companies such as Microsoft, Swarovski, always on a global scale. Emiratisation actually was new to me when I joined. So I'm not an expert, but I'm a practitioner, and that I might share that with some of you. So I might ask the same questions or have a few answers to your questions. And with that being said, let's jump into it. So why are we doing that? IFZA, as a free zone authority, we are not obliged for Emiratisation quotas. Still, it is one of our key objectives to align with the UAE national agenda about Emiratisation. And well, you can read what's on the slides, but what's very important for me with regards to Emiratisation is that we also pay respect and tribute to the company and culture we're actually operating in. We have almost as many nationalities in IFZA, or even more than in this webinar, so close to 60, with almost 500 employees. So coming from all over the world, what unites everyone here is actually that we're all expats in a company, or in a country, sorry. And that is something which is really important for us, so that we, as a company, as well as an employer to our employees, paid respect and tribute to the UAE. When we think about Emiratisation, how are we actually doing that, and where do we see an impact? So we saw the legal aspect. If I'm taking a look at that from an HR perspective or people and culture perspective, the main touch points when it comes to Emiratisation is recruitment, it's development of skills of Emiratis, it's community engagement, which is partly a people and culture topic, but also ESG. And employee engagement. And in all these areas, we're starting initiatives to improve our footprint, to engage more with Emirati citizens and potential employees, and also to employ people. And once we employed them, we need to work with them. We discovered some differences to other talent audiences, which I'll speak about, but only to give you a feeling of what we're doing. So we're actively attending career fairs that target UAE nationals and specifically graduates, so entry level. We're collaborating within IFZA, the People and Culture Department, our academy, which is basically delivering tailored trainings towards employees, partners, clients, but also Emiratis to make them more employable. And for that, we also partner with UAE academic institutes. Another thing where we engage a lot, and which also started now, and I'll show you some examples of that later, is again coming back to the point that we not only want to engage our employees on a general level, but we also want to really engage them within the Arabic and UAE culture. So we're working on certain formats where we help employees understanding business conduct and culture of the UAE better, which also helps the business then again to develop better if we really understand differences in these kind of cultures between Western cultures, Eastern cultures, and Arabic cultures. Yep. One thing maybe to share that as well, we have a dedicated corner on our intranet where one of our colleagues who was specifically hired to help us with Emiratisation and share his expertise and perspective on IFZA, but also on culture and also working as an Emirati in such an environment. So you see Mohammed there. If you want to reach out to him, feel free. But he's actually sharing a lot of his experiences, helping us answering questions which comes from employee, helping us understanding better the customs. We're even starting now a little bit of, I wouldn't call it a language course, but how do I greet Emiratis in the right way? So having all these kind of aspects. With some events, we even include, for example, food experiences. And part of our code of conduct is also the encouragement to wear your national dress in the office. Another thing which we include, so we talked about employees. Even before people start at IFZA, we provide them with a relocation guide to the UAE or to Dubai in specific. So people coming from abroad as expats coming to Dubai for the first time, they get a lot of information from us even before they join with regards to how does it work in the UAE with finding, for example, an apartment, what are the cultural differences, what do I have to keep in mind, where are nice spots to eat, where can I, how do Emiratis spend their free time, how can I join in there, what are certain communities where we join, where I can join, and so forth. That is what we're doing. So the challenges we face, and it might sound familiar to some of you, is basically, first of all, the talent pool is rather small. So only 11% of the UAE workforce are Emiratis. And of those, well, you need to first identify them, but also then engage them and see if they're employable for your organization. So that is a huge challenge. Hence, we reach out specifically to graduates because it's a talent pool which is still very flexible and active in the market. Coming back to the cooperation with the academic institutions or service providers of special Emiratization programs, of programs to make Emiratis more employable. Speaking of that, one thing is the employability. The other thing is basically the incentivization. So it's a very special audience, and we might talk a little bit more when we get the questions later about that. So Emiratis actually are not necessarily incentivized with money. So they need to be incentivized more intrinsically. So we need to find ways to engage with them and engage them as employees with other things, just like with a bonus or high salary. To really help them contribute to the organization. Then when we talk about talent pool again in terms of numbers, language is also a barrier. So not all Emiratis actually are speaking the English language in a proficiency which is needed for business conduct. So there's also the need of helping them develop that, or again, making your talent pool a little bit smaller, only aiming towards those people. But again, one way to do that is cooperating with language schools, because in those institutions, you would find people who are actually actively working on their English language skills. And then there's also regards to talent pool, for example, for us as a free zone, there are certain industries which are more attractive to Emiratis than others, which is again something which we need to overcome, and we need to change our employer brand or adopt our employer brand towards people working, for example, in the oil industry, to help them understand what the perspectives in an organization like ours are. Again, coming back to strategy, so how do we see that when we look forward in our, let's say, 2025 and beyond planning? We focus on skill development, so employability for Emiratis, workplace diversity. So we try to have, even though we're not, again, obliged to certain quotas, but we try to really strengthen our Emirati footprint in the organization. And again, also coming to a community impact. So we're not doing that only to help our organization, but also to help the Emirati community to make them more employable and also offer career perspectives for them, international career perspectives and development perspectives. And all of that, obviously, a stakeholder is the local talent market, it's ourselves and the government of the UAE. And also with regards to, we're working free zone, so the DSO is one example of our partners there. And with that, I think I'm good to take questions, but before that, may I hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you very much, IFZA, for inviting me to this exciting session, sharing my perspective on Emiratization. Thank you to my co-speakers for laying this great foundation. And I think, Tim, I can directly set up on your way forward with what we're currently doing. But before that, I'm happy to very briefly introduce myself. My name is Salah Sufyan. I'm the CEO and founder of Skyrise Partners. I have been a strategy consultant my entire career. I'm both Arabic and German. I started my career in Germany as a strategy consultant, then at one point moved to Dubai, initially for 1 year. And as it sometimes happens, it became a little bit longer. I also had some time in Qatar where I worked. And then after a couple of years in strategy consulting, I founded Skyrise Partners. Skyrise Partners is a company that actually provides solutions in the education sector. What does that mean? We mainly do and implement large-scale programs for governments, for semi-governmental institutions, and for corporates. We do mainly large-scale education programs. What does that mean? We typically do full circle programs from attracting applicants, attracting learners to a certain program, setting up a training curriculum, delivering trainings, and then also measuring impact in terms of enrollments, graduations, and also positive career outcomes. And usually our trainings focus on soft skills, management, leadership, time management, communication. So everything that's needed in order to kickstart your career, but also then to move to the next level in your career. In the next couple of minutes, I'd love to share with you a super exciting program that we're currently working on, which is a program with a local foundation. And it's a program that focuses mainly on, or we're hitting two birds with one stone with that program. So we're in line with national and international priorities. We're bringing more local talent to the private sector, and especially more women to the private sector, as still to date, women are underrepresented in the workplace and especially in leadership roles. So we're currently working on a program that's called the Numu Al Ghurair Women Empowerment Program. What is this program? It's a super exciting program that's fully funded by a very well-known local foundation, which is called the Abdullah Al Ghurair Foundation. And Skyrise Partners is the implementing partner of this program. What does that mean? We're responsible for attracting learners, setting up the training curriculum, monitoring the training, being responsible for training operations, and then also measuring the impact of this program in terms of positive career outcomes, such as full-time workplace opportunities, internships, part-time workplace opportunities, studies, and so on. Just a very few words on the program vision, because I believe it's very important for you to understand. So this is a program that focuses on upskilling Emirati and Arab women with essential management and leadership skills in order to kickstart a corporate career or also an entrepreneurial career. It is important that we connect, or in this program, we not only upskill women with management and leadership skills, but we also connect them with workplace opportunities and connect them with the private sector very early on. I'd love to give you some core elements of this program so that you kind of understand what it's about. So the program has the target of upskilling 500 Emirati women over a time frame of round about 12 to 18 months in several cohorts. We're doing this in a very special setup. So it's a 5-week hybrid program. And we're not only bringing in normal trainers or usual trainers to train the learners with management and leadership skills, but we also bring in high-profile international corporates in order to accompany the ladies or to bring in trainings, mentorship, and also work with them on a case study. And this is a very unique program, and it's a very exciting approach, because not only do the learners or get the learners access to management and leadership training, but also do they connect with the private sector in a very cool and natural way. So this has proven to be very successful to date. We have enrolled over 400 women in this program. We just yesterday have closed cohort 9 of the program and are currently in the 10th cohort of this program. I had just mentioned the corporate partners or the high-profile international conglomerates that are in this program, just to give you kind of an understanding of what we're talking about and what we're doing. So we've kicked off the program last November with Mars Galaxy, whom you probably all know. They are the industry partner of this program. The program continues to be fully funded by the Abdullah Al Ghurair Foundation, of course. So then the second cohort, we worked with Roland Berger. You all know them. It's a German international consultancy. We've also worked with an FMCG, Arla, which is also, I think, quite close to this place here. Nestle was part of it, Rakis, Bait.com, Bain & Company, a large consultancy, AWS, Amazon Web Services. Tim, I think you're familiar with them, you just mentioned. Galaxy, and we will be working with L'Oreal in the near future, and a couple of other cohorts to be done. So this is just to give you an example of what we're doing in this program. It's a great example of connecting or of having different stakeholders being part in a program to deliver a very holistic approach and the best approach for the learners to connect with the private sector very early on. I would love to share with you some insights so that you kind of understand what we're upskilling the learners with. So we usually start with a week of understanding strengths and weaknesses. We head over to mastering your profile, so learners understand how they can set up their CV, their LinkedIn. We then have a week which covers leadership and business communication. And then in the last 2 weeks of the program, the learners usually work on a case study with the mentioned corporate partner. In this case, cohort 2, this was Roland Berger, but as already mentioned, there are a couple of more. After those learners have completed the 5-week training program, we also offer mentorship opportunities for them, which is extremely helpful because what usually happens is that you complete a training program, you get a certificate, and then what to do next. So here in this case, we have a solution as we also bring mentors to the learners for everyone who's interested in, so that they can discuss potential career paths, important career decisions, managing personal and professional life. So all those topics that especially appear at the beginning of everyone's career. Now, you probably wonder, what have we achieved to date? And then you probably also wonder, why is this relevant to you? So we have achieved to date that we've enrolled more than 400 learners. We've also covered all Emirates, which means that we have brought learners from all 7 Emirates to this program. It is a nationwide program, which has been delivered in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, and Ras Al Khaimah, Al Ain. And we're going to cover a couple of more Emirates in the next upcoming months. We have more than 120 women enrolled in the mentorship program. Round about 65% of the learners are graduates, the rest are professionals. And we have over 70 mentors engaged in the program, either many mentors from corporates such as SAP, AWS, and Roland Berger, and many more, but also individuals. So it's a very great mix. Round about 60% of all graduates are, or of all graduates of the program are STEM graduates. And in general, the percentage of women in STEM here in the UAE is way higher than, for instance, in Germany or in other regions. So this is something that's very specific here to this region, and it's also very important to know. To date, we have graduated over 260 women, more to come in the next couple of months. Why is this? So let me just go back. Why is this so relevant to you? Because this is a very good solution in terms of if you're looking for local talent, then this can be a pool of talent that has already been trained, that's eager to take a next step in their career. So this can be for you as a potential employer, very interesting if you're considering to hire local talent, if you're interested in that. We have not only worked with many strategic partners over the previous cohorts, but we've also had a couple of universities we've worked with, which also shows that this is a program that covers many stakeholders from all relevant angles. The foundation, the Abdallah Al Ghurair Foundation, is the funding as the institution that fully funds this program. Universities that collaborate in this program, the private sector, and Skyrise Partners as the implementing partner. And last but not least, as previously mentioned, if you are looking for local talent, then please get in touch with us. We are here sharing our contact details, the access to the website, the LinkedIn access, the Instagram access. Please feel also free to add me on LinkedIn if this appears relevant to you. We would love to get in touch with you and love to share with you a pool of well-trained and ambitious local talent, and are looking forward to getting in touch with you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you so much, Konstantin, for this very valuable insight. Very interesting to analyze this fascinating topic and conversation from so many different angles. So thank you, all three of you, for the great insights. I have to say, I already have plenty of questions here to all of you. So I consider that as a great sign that obviously the interest is very high. I would like to encourage you now, dear audience, to please use the Q&A button and ask your questions even more. We still have time to go through those questions, and I want to make sure that you get your answers to the most relevant points, of course, right? So I'm going to just kick it off, and I have to say, Sarah, a lot of questions are about your part. So I'm going to, unfortunately, you have to work again. I'm not giving you a break right now. First of all, I would start with the question. Looking at this program, there's a lot of people asking, is there something similar also for young people, or is there something similar also that exists for men, for example? Any insights or any knowledge on other segments that you would tackle, if not personally, but do you know about that?
So I mean, many programs here in this country. This one, of course, is specifically for Emirati women. I know that the foundation, the partner we work with, they also have many programs. So this is something you can definitely look into. We are also about to design a couple of more programs, so stay tuned on that. And I would, at this point, direct to the Abdallah Al Ghurair Foundation, who's also managing many more of these kinds of programs than also for men.
Very good. Thank you so much. I'm going to stay with you, Sarah, for now. The other question is, can we contact you if we are looking into hiring Emirati women? I guess I can answer that with a clear yes. And you shared your contact details, but of course we will also do this after the webinar, as I mentioned at the beginning. So feel free to reach out to Sarah if you are in need of that. Of course, you have your handles in the presentations, right? Good, great. I want to ask the next question to you, Tim. What can employers do in order to attract more Emirati talents to their companies? What's your point on this question?
Well, if I understand the question right, it's more about employer branding rather than cooperating with Sarah, for example. Well, you need to go where the people are, as simple as that. So that's the first thing. So just using your usual, I would say, channels of communication and branding wouldn't work. LinkedIn definitely works somewhat. But a lot of Emirati talent, at least in our experience, are not that much engaged on these channels. It's more, I would say, Instagram channels, forums. If you already have Emiratis in your company, or you know some, you might want to ask them, basically, where they spend their time, where they get the information. That's one of the, let's say, benefits of, and sorry to point at him, but of Mohammed, because Mohammed actually is, well, I wouldn't say a regular Emirati. He's young, he's engaged, he's in certain forums, he's on certain social media platforms, and he can tell us actually where to find people. And that's also where we then go and promote ourselves. The branding itself, so the brand itself, that's a little bit tricky. I wouldn't overpromise or promise something we can't, or which is not in line with what our company does and how our company sees themselves and how we treat all our employees. But you might want to put more emphasis, as I mentioned in my presentation as well, less on the, let's say, hard benefits rather than the soft benefits of working in your company, or on development opportunities for Emiratis.
Thanks very much, Tim. We have a couple of more questions. I think this might be still a little bit unclear, so I want to bring that point into the round. So feel free to answer, all of you, which is essentially about the numbers of Emiratis. So Konstantin, maybe you can start with that and maybe elaborate that a little more as to how many by law, right? What is the expected numbers of Emiratis depending on the size of your companies and so on and so forth, and then maybe also if any of you, Sarah and Tim, wanna jump into that, because it could be one element is obviously a legal perspective, but the other one is also a strategic and commercial perspective. So if you want to talk a little further about that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think to start with, you would need to check whether you're a mainland company or not. If you're a mainland company, then these rules and obligations typically would apply to you in case your company is between 20 and 49. There's the requirement of at least hiring one Emirati and the quota going up with every year. If you have more than 50, then you should already have Emiratis on the payroll, and then it really depends on the specific size. In the past, there were even certain requirements to have a public relationship officer if you have more than 100 employees. So the two sort of trigger points are mainland company and then basically the size of the company in terms of headcount, excluding in the initial phase Emiratis, and that's basically what you need to look at.
Well, you mentioned commercial perspective. So again, coming from the comfortable position of voluntarily doing Emirati or preparing for Emiratization, I already talked about the, let's say, it's not moral, but or ethical thought which we follow, that we want to contribute to the society we're actually operating in, and also making sure that we pay tribute to the country we are operating in. There's certainly also kind of a business case behind that. So one being understanding the local culture and doing business with local people. That's definitely a win-win situation, because if you don't understand the culture, difficult to make business with them. Secondly, there's the constant rumor that Emiratization will also apply to free zones sometime. So it helps us actually being prepared for that. Do I believe that that will happen in the near to, let's say, mid-term future? I don't think so. I think it's highly unlikely that these rules will be applied to free zone companies, at least for the time being. But still, being prepared is not wrong, and it doesn't cost you anything. So it's, for us, it's again a win-win situation. And also, again, coming back to the aspect of operating in a certain country, even though it's a free zone, it definitely helps you not only to understand how business is done in those countries, but it helps you also to speak the language of your partners, let's say in authority sites, and in organizations which are mainly run by Emiratis. So that would be slightly different take on what I said in my presentation, but still, we strongly believe in contributing to the society.
Absolutely.
No, nothing to add. I mean, I think I 100% agree. I think it's also some kind of a duty or a moral duty to be in line with national and international requirements. So I think it's not only about fulfilling a certain quota, but it's also about being interested in culture, bringing people in from that culture, and then showing respect to the culture or to the country we live in, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you all for that. I would like to stick a little bit to this free zone topic, because this seems to be quite a bit of a question mark still for some of the audience here. I know we've talked about it, Constantine, you've talked about it in your slides. Tim, you just gave your take on this, but maybe if we can just evaluate this a little further. I know this is a bit of a guessing game, right? But you're the expert here, Constantine, on the legal side. So where do you see this conversation happening? I know we have the mainland companies that are regulated on this regards already. Free zone companies, obviously, I'm not having the IFZA hat on today, but we know that IFZA that the free zone companies play a vital role in this country here, and continues to grow. So obviously, a lot of the questionnaires here are about, is this going to apply eventually? And if so, what does that mean? Is it a copy paste of mainland, or what's your best take on this?
Well, I think it at some stage will also be implemented in the free zone. So my take is a bit different to your take, Tim. And I think the quotas would be much higher, and that's how you can start. So I don't think that every free zone sort of company would be targeted. Those who are large scale. You will have in other free zones in the production, let's say free zones. If you look at Jebel Ali free zones, for instance, you have companies with over 1,000 employees. So you could have probably a staged introduction. What we also see, by the way, already from some of our clients that are having quite a number of employees in the free zones, where they get promotional calls from NAFIS and other governmental sort of institution asking specifically on an Emiratization, which is maybe not regulatory sort of backed or legally backed, but certainly putting a certain sense of pressure on these free zone companies to tackle this sort of topic. So in a nutshell, I think, yes, it will come. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. How it will come, my take is definitely not the small sort of SME or the, let's say, sole ownership company with 0 employees in IFZA. That's not what I think the government would target. What they're interested in is really getting people into, all of the jobs where we heard STEM educated people, such as in the engineering, production engineer sort of jobs. And these obviously do also lay within the free zone ecosystem of the UAE. So my take is, yes, it will come. When it will come, I don't know. Nobody saw when corporate income tax would come. We never saw, when the weekend would be changed and all of these things. These things then happen quite quickly. And because they do, it's, I think, quite important, not only from a moral sort of perspective, but just sort of from a regulatory outlook perspective, to understand the regulatory framework in the mainland. So it's not going to be copy paste. It's going to be targeted. I think, again, it's just my personal belief, looking at the very, very big companies with high numbers of employees.
Yeah.
Please, Tim, go ahead. Yes.
So I think we're very close. So I also think it will come, but I'd see a different time frame. One thing, because the audience might have panicked, you said there will be higher quotas. I think what you meant is higher threshold when the quotas apply.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
good.
yes. Well, that's why I'm saying that,
Yeah.
targeting companies with a lot of employees ultimately.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm a little bit, I would say, from an employer's perspective, more positive about that, I totally agree. You should be prepared on the regulatory framework and everything. Same with income tax. I think if it comes, it will be not as strict as in the mainland, but also this will be taken away, same with income tax, more and more the attractiveness of free zones. And that's also something the government certainly doesn't want to. So that's why I think they will, if it comes, either it will come very late or it will come on a very much lower or higher threshold, let's call it like that.
Yeah.
But also there, if I just may ask, we also thought that in the context of the corporate income tax, that we would have a very preferential tax regime for free zones, which was initially also communicated accordingly. And the outcome of it was, unfortunately, that you only get in very limited sectors preferential treatment. But I think we're completely aligned on. And time-wise, I have no idea, but it will come.
If it will come, we will be sitting in this way around exactly again, and we're going to give you detailed briefings about what it means for IFZA licenses and free zone licenses. I'm very sure about that. Same way we did it with the corporate tax rate that was implemented last year as well. I mean, I think we answered that already, but I just want to raise that question as well, because it has been asked. Are you aware of any free zones in the UAE that are already in the process of Emiratization? I would probably guess it's a no, but
no.
Okay, good. So very good. Same case, but reverse. Are there any mainland companies that are exempted from the requirement? Again, I think you covered the basic requirements, but do you know of any industries or any requirements that in mainland companies where this would not apply?
Well, what I was referring to are the private companies in mainland. I would assume anyways, like most of the governmental sort of steered companies will already have a pretty high sort of Emiratization level by nature. I mean, if you look into the governmental sector, obviously you will have a lot of Emiratis. If you look at DSO, or if you look at Jebel Ali Free Zone Authority, you will see a lot of Emirati talent being employed there. I don't believe that they have strict Emirati or Emiratization quotas, if you ask me. But the rules and regulations I've found are really pertaining to the mainland private industry, private companies, so to speak.
Thank you, Konstantin. You mentioned UAE government entities, which is again a point that brings me to that question here, which I think is quite interesting and quite relevant. I'm going to read it out loud so we have the full context of the question. Do we need to hire Emirati in case we want to get UAE government projects if the company is registered in IFZA? In this particular case, this case is IFZA, but I would say we can probably use it for any examples of freestone companies. So if you want to do a government-related work, or your government is some form of a supplier or a client, does that affect that law?
So from a regulatory perspective, the answer is no, because it's not a mainland company. This having been said, there are certain programs such as the in-country value program. If a procurement process would be run through the ICV program, then of course within the procurement decision and process making, the government will also look at your ICV score. And as I've mentioned earlier, one part of the ICV formula also pertains to Emiratization. So if I may say so, through the back door, you will get, let's say, a positive impact, not only through the soft factors we discussed earlier in terms of, let's say, a moral tribute to the country and to respect the local culture. You would get a top-up points. It depends on how many Emiratis you have. It depends on how much you locally source. But this you would need to look into the ICV program. So that's the general answer when it comes to tenders. In my practice, I haven't come across any requests for proposals that are run through government entities that then would require, let's say, an Emiratization specifically to any projects. I haven't seen that yet, but that would also be, let's say, a tool or a mean to create, let's say, an indirect Emiratization for free zone entities. Yeah, but again, I haven't come across that yet. So the ICV aspect is from my perspective the connecting point to Emiratization when it comes to a government procurement.
If I may add up to that, I think besides the regulatory part you mentioned, it's quite good from a strategic perspective to have one or even more local talent in your company if you want to do governmental projects, because usually those are the people that can connect very well to the government, because again, in the government sector, you have a high ratio of Emiratis working. So I think from a strategic perspective, it definitely makes sense to have local talent in your company, and it definitely can increase also your chances to win certain projects.
If I can add to that, I think we had quite some clients that not only employed Emiratis, but also took them in as interns and in the consulting sector, and have created long-standing ties to these interns as they pursued their careers in the government sector. They used those connections actually to get requests for tenders. So I can completely confirm what you're saying, Sarah. Definitely makes sense. Not only from, let's say, a direct procurement perspective, but also just from a connecting point to have a foot in the door, to understand what is happening, to understand what projects are out, let's say, not in the open market, but basically to get those requests for tenders.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it certainly won't hurt. That's for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think we're slowly coming to an end. I have a few more questions that I want to bring in. There's one question which I'm not fully aware if I understand it 100%, but I'm going to again read it to the experts here. So maybe you can help me with here. Are companies with a mainland license that have no employees but operate IFZA branches with over 100 employees subject to Emiratization targets?
Okay.
I don't think I completely understand the business case, but maybe we can look at it from a perspective what actually matters. I would assume it's probably the business license that matters the most, right? As what do you qualify as a pre-zone company
Correct.
as a mainland company is probably the business license.
The business license, and the question is under which license are the employees employed? And if I understand it correctly, they are saying we have an LLC or a mainland company with a branch in IFZA, and the branch is the let's say employer of the employees, and that means for the branch, in my view, the Emiratisation targets would not be applicable.
Okay.
If I understand the question correctly.
Otherwise,
If
you,
not,
I think
yeah.
you see it already on the screen. You can always reach out to us
Absolutely.
and further have conversations with us, of course. This is an interesting question as well. If the company is owned by an Emirati person, will penalties also apply? Or is this person already fulfilling the quota then, basically?
Well, ownership and being employed are two different and two separate aspects. So in my view, that would not basically circumvent the penalties. So it's really about, are you a private sector entity? And Emirati ownership, generally speaking, would not have an impact on that. And the Emirati owner would also not count as an employee unless he is formally employed in addition to his position as a shareholder, which is, again, a separate aspect from the formal employment.
Okay. So shareholders and employees are considered separately. Thank you for that, Konstantin. Last question, and then I would like to come to an end of today's webinars. Sarah, this is again for you. I think it's a great question to finish the Q&A session. Are there any programs scheduled for 2025?
Yes, so definitely the current program that we're running, which is quite successful, will be continued. So this is scheduled for 2025. If you'd like to have more information, please feel free to reach out anytime. And then there will be a couple of ones coming up, which or hopefully coming up, which I'm not allowed to speak about yet. But for sure, stay tuned and happy to follow up on that discussion in one-on-ones.
Super. And I'm sure any updates will be shared on your social and on your platform.
Yeah.
So I would encourage all of you to have a look if you're interested in working with Sarah. But before that, I would like to express my thanks for your attendance today. Thank you for being so engaged with us now at the Q&A. Thank you for staying with us. We are very pleased to see that we have so many people joining us today into a potentially difficult yet very interesting and most importantly important topic. I would like to thank my three experts here, Sarah, Tim, and Konstantin, for your support today, for your insights, and for sharing your knowledge. This is, as always, very helpful. So thanks to all three of you. Please feel free, again, to reach out if you have any further questions that you have about IFZA, legal advice, or Sarah's amazing programs. Please feel free to reach out to us. Last point that I want to make, once again, I repeat myself, I know, but just so that you also know, we recorded the webinar. We will forward the transcript of that. We will forward the presentation, so you will have time to read up on any potential open points that you still have. So thank you very much. Wish you all a wonderful evening or afternoon or morning, wherever you are in this world. Thank you for your attendance, and I'm looking forward to see you soon in one of the next IFZA webinars. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.